Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wrestleview Post-Raw number 162. I'm Mike Tedesco.
I'm Victoria Tedesco.
We're back from the dead. All right. Man, it's been we've had an interesting couple of weeks since last time we saw you, which was it was only 3 weeks ago. But our 2.5 year undefeated streak against
the Coves.
The Cove is done. We all had it, including the baby, including poor pregnant Victoria, but we survived it.
We did. It's not fun though.
It sucked. It really, really sucked.
It wasn't a cold for us.
No, So for those that say, "Oh, it's just a cold. It's no big deal. It's just like the flu." It's like,
no.
Well, who wants the flu?
No.
Nobody.
I have never felt that sick before, and I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I literally have never felt that sick. I had flu symptoms, but like 10 times worse. The fever, chills, nausea, headache, vomiting, like awful.
Victoria, of course, gets every single symptom that you could possibly have.
Every symptom.
That's just how she works. But we're better. We're here. We're very excited to be back. And hey, we never lost none of us lost our taste and smell. So that was like the one thing that like I truly, truly feared.
Oh no, Ed, I've had food poisoning before too. This was way worse than food poisoning. I never had food poisoning. I've had food poisoning quite a bit.
My symptoms weren't as bad as food poisoning. I will say that. I've never had food poisoning, but I wasn't like throwing up or anything like that. I just felt like a car hit me. That's okay though. We survive it. We can live. Anyway, hi everybody. Let's say hello to the people in the chat room tonight. All right, we got Machine Walls here in the chat room. We got Daniel Shale. Cute baby pictures, Victoria. Did you put up baby pictures?
When we did National Daughters Day.
Yes, indeed. Mm-hmm. Indeed. We got Ed Hamilton here. We got Randy Torcola. We got Jamel is in the house. Hola, Señor V. Muy bien. ¿Y tú? Let's see. We got Navis Sedan, our buddy. Our dear friend, Navis. We got Brett Farmer here. I already said Daniel Show. We got the Wrestleview Fiend. The White Rabbit, Andrew Elder, is here. He's been battling an ear infection. We hope he's doing better. We got Jerome Weiland. And I think we're good on everybody so far, unless I missed somebody. I hope I didn't. Anyway, so we're back. Let's talk about Raw.
I just like real quick. I just like the pumpkin and the harvest sign in the back on your end.
Oh yes.
It's nice. Happy fall, everybody.
Yes, happy fall, everybody. And like here in the Northeast, as soon as it like turned to the fall, it was like okay. We were on like we were in the mid 80s, and all of a sudden like it turned fall on the Thursday, and then Friday it was in the 60s. It's like, why did that have to happen so fast? Like I was not was not ready for that.
See, I was actually looking forward to it because I was over the heat at this point. So the colder weather, I'm all for it. I wish it would kind of stay like not really cold, but just middle temperature.
Yes. All right. So let's talk about this Monday Night Raw here. Another 3 hours. And I remember like I enjoyed the show. I'm just going to start off by telling you right now that I enjoyed this show. But like I got up from from the couch at around 10 o'clock. It was almost like 10 o'clock on the nose. And I was just like kind of walking to the fridge just to get myself an iced tea. And then I looked at the clock on the stove and it said 10 o'clock. I was like, oh God, there's still an hour to go here. It's like, I don't know, like my body was like winding down for like the end. I was like, wow, we saw a lot of matches tonight. A lot of stuff got a lot of time. And there's still another hour to go here.
There is a discernible difference between, because we've been watching SmackDown more.
Well, I'll be covering SmackDown while Roy is gone.
Yeah.
For a couple weeks.
So, and that extra hour really does something, even if it's a great show and it has been great shows and like good shows and not bad shows. that third hour is still like, it's still a lot. Like you could get through a SmackDown and be like, even if the show's like so, it's still
2 hours.
it's still
It's like,
2
man,
hours. It's like watching a movie.
And honestly, SmackDown is an hour and 57 minutes. Let's be fair here.
Oh yes.
They end at 9:57 so they can do their like lead in
into the
news
sport.
and stuff like that,
Yeah,
or like
exactly.
whatever they have to do. I was like watching SmackDown. It was just like I was just, oh wow, that's it. It was kind of refreshing. And it's starting to get me to think, is there, like, I don't know if there's any formula for professional wrestling that works every week for a television program. It's like we complained about the Vince layout of the show, which it was pedantic and mundane and kind of annoying. And filled with stupidity with like horrible talking segments. Like, it's like, I don't want to hear people talk for 3 hours, but now it's like we're watching wrestling for 3 hours. That's much easier to watch, but it's still like, it's like watching an action movie that goes for 3 hours every week. It's still too much. So I'm not really sure if there's like a formula that will ever truly work for this 3 hours.
No. And honestly, yeah, they're not going to give it up because of the money. They're not going to do it. We know this.
Well, and they also have a contract that goes to 2024.
No, we know this, but
we have 2 years.
It still doesn't make it any better to deal with sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? If there's still a show that's 3 hours, it's harder to watch. When you're watching something like, let's just say like the Titanic or a movie, those are like not well, actually not the Titanic for us because we can watch it anytime. But if there's like 3 hour movies, you watch those like once in a while. It's not a situation where you're watching it.
Okay, here, let me give you an example of that. Like, I love Batman. Batman's like my favorite superhero, I guess you could say. I still haven't watched the new Batman movie yet, and that that was out in theaters. A couple months back, and they actually released it on like HBO Max streaming as well while it was in theaters. And I was like, oh, I am going to watch this Batman movie, but I want to reserve 3 hours of my life to do this. And I still haven't done it yet. I still have not watched the Batman movie.
No, I mean, and listen,
because I have to like gear myself up to watch a 3 hour action movie. I just can't do it without getting paid for it. At least.
Yeah, of course.
I kind of like what Brett's saying here. Raw should do a first half-hour pre-show and a last half-hour post-show. But you know what? They don't want to give up that hour either. Like that 8 o'clock hour. But I mean, like, I don't know if there's like a formula that realistically works. I mean, like, man, remember when they used to do the 3 hour Raws with the post-show and pre-show on WWE Network? Like, whoever watched that stuff? Like, I remember I watched it like once and I was like, no more of that.
Right. It's a different feel. Like when you're watching those type of things, it's action packed. It's compelling. It's what have you, but it's not meant for every day. It's not meant for every week. Like it's more, your typical average movie is like an hour and a half to 2 hours, which is doable to keep the engagement, to keep that level of whatever. But with wrestling, I mean, that's what you have your pay-per-views for, right? They're supposed to be longer. They're supposed to be your movie, that presentation.
Right.
So you don't need to have it episodic, but it is. And you feel it sometimes, I mean, it's been much more tolerable. I will say that. And I know exactly what you're saying. My 10 o'clock hour, you're like, oh crap, it's still like an hour left.
Yeah. And even when it's a good show, you're like, oh man, still an hour.
Yeah. I mean, it's also got to be very, I don't know. For me,
tonight was a good show. It was a good show. I'm going to talk about some things that I don't love, but it was a good show.
It was.
But after 2 hours, I was like, let's bring this baby in for a landing.
Yeah.
And look, this is a conversation that we've been having for over 10 years now. July 2012 was when they decided to go to 3 hour Raws. We're in September 2022.
Yeah, they're not going to change. They're not going to change it.
No,
they're not. Yeah.
We got our esteemed AEW Dynamite recapper in the chat room tonight. Christopher Garrix is in the house. That is great. Welcome to the chat, Chris. Yeah, Andrew Elder's really, really rooting for this. we'll see how that happens. Okay, let's talk about the White Rabbit real quick. Number one, that freaking feed your head song is like, I just like walk around the house. I'm like, feed your head. Like I can't get it out of my freaking head.
I can't get it out of my head. No.
Oh man, like there's no like they haven't outright said it's Bray Wyatt, and you know, like everybody's kind of just assuming that, but is there some, like, let's just play devil's advocate here for a second. Is there anybody that could come back as this White Rabbit that's not Bray Wyatt?
Not Bray Wyatt.
That wouldn't be an enormous disappointment, I guess, to wrestling fans.
Ooh, that's a really good question.
I don't want it to be Bray Wyatt because I think Bray Wyatt is a very bad wrestling character. But I'm sure it is going to be Bray Wyatt. But is there anybody that it could be that wouldn't be in a gigantic disappointment?
I don't know. Who else is? I mean, that's a stupid question. I was about to say, who else is out there? I mean, there's a ton of people out there.
Well, some people are saying it's Karrion Kross, but it's like, why would you?
I don't think it's Karrion Kross. I mean, maybe, but I don't think so. Oh, I don't know. I really do think it's Bray Wyatt. I do. Just because.
Well, Brian Farmer's saying it's Vince. I honestly, guys, okay. Speaking of Vince, real quick, there was a backstage segment tonight with Austin Theory and Alpha Academy, and Chad Gable was like trash talking Braun Strowman or something like that, and the phone rings, and I was like, it's like he was McMahon's protege up until a few months ago when McMahon disappeared, and it's like, oh, it's for you. And I didn't think we're going to hear the voice. But I honestly thought that it was going to be like a callback to Vince or something. Yeah. Like that. I was like, whoa. Like what is it? It wound up being Braun Strowman. But.
Breaking news, everyone. It's me, by the way.
Yeah.
Mike and I didn't have COVID. It's me.
I know some people are saying Baron Corbin, but, Brett Farmer on Twitter tonight was doing some real investigative work on the latest video to come out for the
Thank you, Brett.
And one of them was one of the numbers on there was like a zip code for Corbin, Kentucky, which is
okay,
which is where a house show was held that Randy Orton faced Fiend at.
Okay,
but of course they're it's WWE. I truly do think it's just WWE trolling. I mean, look, what was the payoff to that Baron Corbin thing with the JBL getting into his limo like a month ago or something like that? Shane, I mean, Brett's thinking maybe it's Shane. I mean, Shane McMahon might not be a bad payoff to that.
I wouldn't hate that.
I just, it's like for me, and of course, Daniel Shell saying, it could be maybe Malachi Black. What he was saying about his injuries that he has, I just can't imagine that he'd want to get back onto this schedule again. For me, I just like, I'm sure people are going to go crazy when it eventually is revealed that it is Bray Wyatt. And I'm still holding out that it might not be, but oh my God, Bray Wyatt just does not light my fire at all. And how quickly people forget about the damage caused by that Fiend character. I mean, look at Alexa Bliss.
I think that's where
I wish that we could have done the freaking post-Raw last week. You hear my freaking. This is the one thing I still have left is this residual like esophageal spasm.
CM Punk.
From the freaking COVID, but I wanted to talk about like the damage that was done just to Alexa Bliss. And how it really and even for like Randy Orton, it just like derailed him for like a little while with that horrible feud that he had, and like the lighting on fire. It was just way too much. Yeah. And Elder says that, you can blame Vince for that mess. And I think, it's come out that Vince and Bray did butt heads on the creative for the Fiend, but I don't know, man.
Well, okay. If we could look back for a second,
like I don't think he can go back. Like, I don't think he should come back as the Fiend because it's just got such a stink on it for me.
Yeah, it did a lot. It did do a lot of damage for sure. And I think that's honestly why I think let's just put it this way. If the Fiend didn't escalate to the point of where it went, and it was just like a typical, like, it didn't really do anything. It didn't really cause any harm. It was just kind of there, and it was whatever. It was this character, right? Like, because it was hot in the beginning, right? And then obviously it got really weird very quickly. And then all of this transpired, and it did a lot of damage. It really, really did. We can't deny that. But I think if it was just kind of one of those things where it came and it went, and it didn't really like put a whole lot of emphasis on it, and whatever. But a lot of the shows were a huge focus around the Fiend and what they were doing, and whatever. So I don't know if you would necessarily have that same feeling if Bray Wyatt just left as Bray Wyatt, and it wasn't the Fiend and this whole like catastrophe and magic and whatever. You might feel a little differently that if it turns out to be him coming back. But I think because you have a bad taste in your mouth, which many people do, about the character itself and what it did to him, Alexa Bliss, other people he was feuding with, and whatever. Yeah. And it's interesting because in general, Bray Wyatt, like, his character, it tended to do that. It would tend to be like, yeah, really intriguing, really interesting in the beginning, and then it would just kind of go into a totally different direction. So I see what you're saying, and I think a lot of people would agree with you in terms of what they feel like if it were him. I would hope though, under the new regime, that if it turns out to be him, I'm the type of person that I could say, like, I'll give it a second chance with his character. So if it winds up being him, like, let's see what you can do with it. So that's just my take on it. Like, if it winds up being him, I'm not going to be like disappointed by any means.
Well,
like, good for him.
I will say this, we've given a lot of quarter to some bad gimmicks that have been revived under Triple H, like, number one, namely the Judgment Day, which was dead to rights. It was just a horrible freaking angle, and dying a slow, painful death. And then Triple H kind of turned it around creatively, and I'm not giving Vince any credit for that whatsoever. Like he kind of changed the look of it. Like they don't really, like initially it was supposed to like seem like it was Finn Balor's leader, and Finn Balor is just extraordinarily uncharismatic and not interesting, and gave Rhea Ripley a chance to really kind of run with this as the leader and the mastermind behind the whole entire thing, which I kind of like. I like a female in like a position of a strong, stable.
Same, yeah, for sure.
So we've given some quarter to some bad gimmicks that have since revived, and Judgment Day is the one that stands out to me right now.
Exactly.
So if he comes back as the Fiend, I will say this: Vince had no understanding and no real idea about what this was in the summer of 2019. And it led to one of the most fascinating, quite possibly,
yeah, you're right,
one of the great debuts of all time for any type of character at SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically enough, including Finn Balor in that match, like he faced Finn Balor. And then Vince was like, "Oh, people like this, and we can sell merch." And it's like,
like Ed's
saying,
like,
"Oh yeah, slap the Lily doll on Alexa Bliss, and now that makes everything better because she sells money."
Yeah,
Alexa Bliss as a character is totally lost, totally broken. It's like she's ruined, but she's making money because they sell a doll that costs a lot to build, so they make money off that. Whoop-de-doo. That's not really. We're not talking about that here. But I'll give it a chance. I mean, I will give it a chance
because
see
I
what
liked
happens with Bray being the.
I liked, and I know I keep repeating myself. I liked the Fiend in the beginning because I thought it was cool. I thought it was interesting. He has these puppet friends and like this weird Mr. Rogers type feel. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah. It was and
yes, Randy, he got the treatment.
The treatment, yes. And it had its purpose in terms of marketing, this merch. You still could have done both though. You still could have, because listen, we have the Lily doll. We bought oh my god, my brain.
The puppet.
The puppet. We bought the other puppet. I can't remember the name. Yeah, what is that?
Thing.
Somebody help us out here. I can't remember the name.
Was.
Oh my god! Please, somebody help us out here with the.
They'll get it.
Yeah,
Keep
please,
going.
guys. But yeah, that like you could still do both. You were still able to do both with his character, but it just went crazy. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I said, we bought the damn puppets, so for us, like, yeah, it was fine. Like, you could still do that, but you didn't have to go like crazy with the way that the character. Mercy. Thank you. We appreciate it. That's all fine. Like, I'm all about like marketing and merch and whatever, but it just went off the rails. That was the problem. It went into something that wasn't feasible. And I know certain things are not
Abby the Witch,
realistic. Yeah.
Ramblin' Rabbit.
Yeah, there were so many characters.
I like Ramblin' Rabbit. He died a couple times. He was the
did.
Kenny of the Firefly Funhouse.
Yeah. No, it was cool. It was this weird thing that you never really saw before. But then it just went off. Like I said, it went off the rails. It turned into something that it should not have turned into. So you easily could have had both. You could have the best of both worlds with a great character and his awesome merch and his puppets and his whatever.
Instead we have great merch and a horrible character that makes you want to gouge your eyes out.
Yeah.
Watch
so
on TV
it's like
every week.
It's like, but I am in a new, more optimistic mindset where if he comes back, I'm fine with it. Just see what you can do. That's all. Because listen, Judgment Day is the prime example here. Nobody was into the Judgment Day. Everybody was like, poo-poo, no, don't want any part of it. And now, like,
I thought it was a very, very poor gimmick. I really did.
Horrible.
It was not good.
But here we are now. Now most of us, like majority of us, enjoy the Judgment Day. So we got to give things a shot here.
Yes. All right. So
we had the puppet. We have the Vince puppet too.
Oh yeah, that's right. We got the Vince puppet. That's right.
Remember Liliana would put the Vince puppet to sleep in her little baby crib?
Yes, that was a couple months ago. Yeah.
She goes, poor Vince.
Yeah. I kind of agree with Brian here too. They should have leaned into the hurt heel scenario. You could work him as a tweener. He could hurt or heal any person depending on the whims.
100%.
I like that. Like there's so much that they never played into. And I remember like so many people like, oh my God, it's genius level. This is next level stuff. And it really wasn't. Like it had the potential, and
for sure.
And a lot of people remembering the stuff that Bray did in the summer of 2019 with the hurt heel stuff. And once he made that debut at SummerSlam, Vince saw dollar signs, and Vince saw, oh, I'm going to show how creative I can be with this character.
Yeah,
and ruined it.
And
somebody said earlier that that he almost ruined Seth Rollins. He did ruin Seth Rollins. In October 2019, that was the end. So sorry. That was the end of the Seth Rollins face turn. And Seth was like on fire as a face for like a year and a half, 2 years. Yeah, I mean, some of you could argue that when he started teaming with Becky Lynch at Extreme Rules in 2019, like a lot of people were saying like that's where it started going off the rails. But when Bray Wyatt was in the ring and Seth was in the corner crying, that's about as death for a babyface as you can get.
Right.
And shortly after that, he turned to the Messiah. He joins up with AOP, and then I think Akam or Razor, I forget which one, got injured, and then that kind of ended that. He had Buddy Murphy as a disciple, and then it was just he was gouging Rey Mysterio's eye out before long. It took, believe it or not, it took Seth Rollins quite a long time to get back on track after the Fiend situation.
And he definitely did.
Well, it's because great wrestlers always come back.
Yeah, and you can
always.
You can
find a way back.
It doesn't always work out in everyone's favor.
Yeah.
Luckily for him, he's good. He's great.
Andrew, the red lights. Don't even get me started on that. Man,
don't.
I still remember that
damn red light.
That freaking Hell in a Cell was the worst match I've ever covered. Like the worst major match that I've ever covered. I'm sure that I covered like you know, like what is a good match? What's a bad match? Right. But creatively, the worst match I've ever covered in my life. And it was the death of Seth Rollins, and it was the death of the Hell in a Cell gimmick for good. It was kind of dying the year before, when I think they had Braun Strowman tear the door off of a Hell in a Cell, or no, Brock Lesnar tore the door off a Hell in a Cell, and that ended in no contest. And then this one ended in disqualification. It was like, that was it for Hell in a Cell. Now when Hell in a Cell rolls around, I'm rarely excited about it anymore. Seriously, like it means nothing to me now. They've ruined the gimmick. And you can thank our buddy Bray Wyatt here. Everybody's falling over themselves. You know, can't wait for him to come back. But again, we'll give it a chance.
Give it a chance.
Give it a chance, because Vince is not here to add his treatment to it. Anyway,
I still wonder what he does weekly.
Oh my god! Like I do wonder. Like I imagine like Vince is like sitting in a walk-in closet surrounded by like those two-tone ties. You know, remember like his ties would be like one color at the knot and then a different color on the actual tie.
You can't tell me.
I mean his ties were spectacular. His tie game was always on. But I just imagine like Vince is just like laying in a pile of his ties, just like shaking that he can't use them anymore.
I am not mad. I am mad at the man. I am. Don't get it twisted. But I would pay money to watch him weekly, watching this show and just having a complete meltdown.
Well, there was that great gimmick. There was that great gimmick from the WWE ECW broadcast of like Vince like in a rocking chair, like all crazed. That's Vince now. It really is. But
I would pay to see that.
You know, Jerome, I was almost thinking the same thing. What if it is Cody?
That's not a horrible idea. It's not out of the realm here.
I was thinking about saying that earlier, but I just can't imagine why it would be Cody. Although his hair is kind of white. I don't know.
Who knows?
But we'll see. Another thing that, speaking of Vince, real quick, there was like a rumor making its rounds on the internet this week, and I didn't see it posted by like any like reputable news sources.
Okay.
But that, you know, WWE is gonna have, you know, try to get Vince into the WWE Hall of Fame as like kind of like a rehabilitation project, and have him get like one big pop at WrestleMania. Number one, I don't see any scenario where Vince will want to come back and give love to the fans and have this big speech at the Hall of Fame, or even walk out to WrestleMania and just get a pop and then go back as like the elder statesman of wrestling promoters. I don't see that ever happening. Number two, I haven't seen any sources where that was like realistically reported. I think it might be somebody wishful thinking, or somebody just trying to, you know, a lot of times like Ringside News will just come up with a bullshit post and post it, you know, like they'll take things and like do like a hot take and report it as news, and then if that hot take does actually come true, then they'll be like, "See, told you," and then they'll delete like all their other posts, you know, that said something contrarian to that, and just keep that one. It's like, come on now, we know what's going on. I don't see Vince ever coming back. Like in a situation like that. At least not this year. At least not this year.
They did it this year. They'd be idiots. Okay. So here's some of White Rabbit's significances, of symbolisms. Okay. One are considered to be lucky, loving, and bring forth impending opportunity. One definition is signifying chasing, being late, and curiosity. And another one is hollow defines emptiness and the opportunity to be filled. So who knows? Could be anybody.
Would you Google that?
Of course I Googled it. I think I have White Rabbit information. I have White Rabbit information all over my head.
I don't know. It's like, well, maybe you fed your head. I don't know. Anyway. So I'm sure there's like more wrestling news to talk about, but let's get into the show. Oh yeah. So the other thing I want to talk about with this show is, my God, the one thing I love that at least they're going in the route of like, all right, let's talk more action, which that to me definitely speaks to me as a wrestling fan. I want to see that. But I think Triple H spent a little too much time under the Vince learning tree. 25 years under the Vince learning tree. He books interesting matches for shows. like sometimes when he books something, he will pay it off. Like Edge versus Damian Priest was paid off really well at that show in Toronto. I thought the women's tag title tournament was a good payoff. Like they wanted to swerve everybody and surprise them with Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah becoming champions before they dropped them back to Damage Control. But he'll book a great match, and then it'll go like a commercial break, or even 2 commercial breaks, and then interference, and it's the same thing. Like last week was unbearable with how much interference there was. It was crazy. Right from the first match, which was the U.S. title match, Seth freaking Rollins versus Bobby Lashley, Matt Riddle interferes. Second one, Austin Theory and Kevin Owens, Johnny Gargano gets involved. It's like, that's the second match. Brawling Brutes. This one, I'm trying to think. This one was a clean finish. I was okay with that. That was okay. There wasn't. I was surprised that they didn't send the Usos out for that. I'm trying to think back. Judgment Day versus Matt Riddle and Finn Balor. Of course, Dominik, gets involved in the finish at the end. We got Alexa Bliss versus Bayley in a horrible, horrible main event. Of course, there was a distraction finish. It was like they had 5 matches on the show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 4 of them had interference last week. This week, let's look at what happened here. What?
No, Brett.
What do you say?
You know what would make this Raw review better? It should end with Roy Nemmer interfering with the finish.
He's on a different time zone. I think it's like almost 7 o'clock in the morning.
Brett, you gave it away. No, I'm just kidding.
Swerved us. Now we're going to swerve him back.
Come on, Brett. No.
This week, Bianca Belair and
yes.
Sky.
Somebody said it, that how many there were.
Yeah.
4 to 5.
Yes.
Again, Andrew said 4 to 5. Yeah.
I mean, but this time they tried to switch it around where they would do a distraction finish only for it to not work, and then the face goes over. They did that twice tonight.
Very
but still, it's like,
though.
man, oh man, it's like, can we just get a freaking finish? Like, do they really think someone losing, it's gonna, oh, that's it, all the momentum's gone, that's it?
It's not true. It's so not true.
And if that's the case, then don't book the match. Think of another match. Like I kind of liked what they were doing with, I really like where they're going sometimes, where like people in like different programs are kind of like getting together now.
Yeah.
Seth Rollins like joining in with the Judgment Day tonight. In this case it was Dominik Mysterio. They've done a couple things like that, a couple times, through the weeks, which I really like, because I how long did I talk about that great freaking Raw from like August 2020, August 2002, where it was like The Rock versus Eddie Guerrero, and they were in 2 different programs, and then it was just like a one night deal. Like I like those things. So like do more of that. Where somebody like just give a finish. Like I don't understand this. Like it's just like, as things are changing and getting better, like that is still consistent.
I'm one for like everything in moderation. Obviously, when it serves a purpose and when it contributes to something in terms of storylines, I'm all for it, but it can't happen all the time, especially when you're getting like even in particular these back-to-back 2 weeks. It's just like 4 to 5 each week. Come on, it's excessive. It's a lot. And it does have to be a reset in that mindset of like, oh, well, if somebody wins clean, or if there's a finish like that it hurts the individual. That's not the case. In some cases it could, for sure. So you have to be careful about how you present it, but to do it all the time is not solving the problem either. So you just gotta like balance it out a little bit,
right?
1, 2, maybe doesn't happen at all, fine either, but 4 to 5 back-to-back weeks, no.
It's excessive.
It's excessive.
It's excessive, and I something I wish that they could that they can get away from. It's like, you look at like what AEW does on their shows. It's like extraordinarily rare for there to be like a DQ finish or something like that. They try to give clean finishes as much as they can.
Question for you though: do you think Triple H? I think he is. Do you think Triple H is one to reflect? Like, do you think he would probably change, even though he's been in this habit?
I do.
Okay, I do too. I think he's one who rewatches shows. Maybe will say to himself like, okay, this was a little bit much. I think he also reads reviews. I do. Takes that into consideration and probably listens to other people too. So it probably will get better, and I hope it does with that at least.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk about the show.
Oh my god, we haven't talked about the show.
We haven't talked about the show.
Not really. Well, kind of, but not really.
All right. I love what they're doing with the women on Raw. You know, like I really like Damage Control. You know, there hasn't really like there hasn't been any great matches that have come from this, but the storyline I think is fascinating, and I think they're doing a really, really good job doing some character work with Bianca Belair, where Bayley as the heel is kind of getting you to start questioning, you know, the motives of Bianca Belair. You know, is she supremely jealous of, you know, or envious of the fact that Bayley pinned her? Did that like set her off because she's a very vain person? Yeah, and then you start like seeing her in her matches, and they're doing this thing where she's looking frustrated that she can't put people away. It's like, you know, is she a very vain, excessive person like that? You know, where it's like, you know, she's an egomaniac almost. I think that this is like a really good wrinkle to add to the character. But this opening segment was like, it left a lot to be desired here. Like I actually thought that the promo wasn't bad, but you know, like all promos are supposed to build to like, you know, some kind of crescendo, especially when it's going to lead to the match at Extreme Rules. Bayley challenges her to a ladder match at Extreme Rules. And, you know, it's like I know that they've been given a little more leeway to do their promos the way that they want to do them. But like Bianca made a very poor choice tonight, or whoever scripted this line for her made a very poor choice by instead of like having her say like, you know, the old reliable challenge accepted, I will give you this ladder match. She instead says, well, the ante is up. And it's like, okay, like, is that a yes? Like they never showed a graphic for it. Like, what are we doing here? Is this a yes? Like, I don't understand what's going on here. And they're like, you know, like she challenged her to his ladder match, and there's no big pop for the acceptance here. I thought that was just, oh man, like that just didn't work. And that's how the show opened. And I was like, uh-oh, like this is a misstep to get the show off. And then Bianca Belair versus Io Sky. The Io Sky was actually the first versus Bianca Belair was actually the first match that Io Sky had on the main roster here. And I thought the match was really clunky and just not good. Like there was just a lot missing from that. And this match, you know, like almost 2 months later, kind of the same, left a lot to be desired. You know, Io Sky really, I'm sorry. You know, I've gotten some flack for saying this tonight on Twitter, but she has not been great on the main roster. You know, there was a couple of spots where they just were lost a couple times. Like there was this one thing where they were in a waist lock, and it seemed like it may have only been like 10 seconds they were in the waist lock trying to figure out what to do. But as I was watching, I was just like, my God, this feels like an eternity of them trying to figure out, wait, which side of the ring we're supposed to go out of? Like where are we going? They had no idea where they were in the ring, what the spot was, and how to transition to that spot. It was clunky as hell. You know, there was a mistimed short arm clothesline where Bianca made contact and then Io fell a couple seconds later. You know, even I think it was, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago in the tag match or the tag title match against Raquel Rodriguez, like, you know, she came up short on a moonsault to the floor, and it took her forever to set that spot up. Io Sky's a great wrestler. I've seen her have some phenomenal matches on NXT, but my God, like on the main roster, on the big stage, I think that part of it is just it's gotten to her head that she's trying to extra hard to be perfect, and she is really struggling. I find her to be struggling. Like she'll be fine like for some of the match, and then there'll be like a part in the match where it's like, wow, that was clunky as hell. And there was a couple times there was a lot of clunk in her match against Bianca Belair tonight, and Bianca Belair has not looked great. Well, I mean, like two bad matches in a row, back to back weeks. I thought the match against Sonya Deville was horrible. Sonya Deville obviously was not having a good night, and I can't really blame that on Bianca. But then she has a bad match against Io Sky, and you're just like, oh boy, we need to pump the brakes a little bit and take a couple steps back. And I think next week, don't put Bianca in action. Just do a promo and just be done with it. And maybe script her something where she doesn't say the ante is up as a means to say yes. But I would really like, hey, hello. I would really like Bianca Belair. I would like to see Io Sky figure this out. Dakota Kai, I haven't really seen too much of her to really comment on, but like Io Sky is like, it's like in your face. This is not working out yet. And I know it will. I know she'll eventually figure it out, but we're 2 months into this. Oh yeah, wait, hold on. August, September. We're 2 months into it, and she's still trying to find her way. It's like I hope that she figures it out soon, because it's starting to become a trend here. What say you?
I agree. I really love the progression of the way the women been going overall. I think it is one of the situations that this is just a different type of environment. Obviously, she's great. She definitely is great. It's not to say that she's bad by any means. I think it's just a matter of finding your groove. I think, unfortunately for her, because there's a lot of I mean, they're the main women. Like right now they're the main women. They're the main focus, and they've been driving a lot of the storylines on the show. So, all eyes are on them. And if you're that weak link, you're going to stand out a lot more because everyone's watching. So, but I think she will find her groove. It's just a matter of they also kind of have to. I think they're going along with everything just because they have to, because the storyline is so dominant.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to continue with it. But it would be nice for her to almost like take a step back just for even I don't even think she's like a long time, just like a few weeks just to kind of figure it out. Because she's good. She's great. She's been wrestling a long time. So it's not like, oh, she didn't wrestle before. Like, this is rookie, whatever. It's just that this environment's different. This type of match, these matches are different than probably what she's used to.
Well, she's got to get used to it.
Yeah. No, she does. She does. And she will.
Time to figure it out. And Bayley is, I'm a little worried about this match at Hell in a Cell, because Bayley looked atrocious last week, and even in her first match back against Aaliyah, that should have been like almost like a squash match, she didn't look great. I didn't think she looked phenomenal at Clash at the Castle either, but last week was, I mean, look, she's facing Alexa Bliss, who has no idea what her character is anymore, and so she's fumbling around the ring, and Alexa Bliss has not looked good in, God, how long has she been back for now? 4 or 5 months? And she's looked atrocious in almost every match that she's in. Really bad, because she has no idea what she's doing. She has no idea who she is anymore. Like what is her character?
I think it's very hard
she's
for her.
She's carrying around a doll.
I think it is very hard for her. I think for so long, she had and I said this before, so I know I keep repeating myself. She did a great job with that character because it was so bad, but she still was really putting a lot of effort into it. I think at this point, she's just tired of putting effort into something that's just not there. So I think for her, like somebody said this before, she probably should just go back to NXT and revamp her character. It did work for
Alexa?
Mandy. Yeah,
Yes,
it did
yeah.
work. It did work for Mandy Rose.
Oh,
Mandy
my God,
Rose
Mandy Rose is like
killing it. She's NXT plus, like with the women. She is the women. Yeah,
she's a superstar down there.
She is a
and
superstar.
she's really standing out. I mean, my God, you know, and she's gotten Cacciatino Sabatelli. I'm like, my God, like what a total like how did this guy do that? How did he pull that off? You know, it doesn't make any sense to me. But
yeah,
you know,
she's pretty.
She's great. She's really, really good at what she's doing down there. You know, like when I catch NXT or you know, like I remember even recapping her takeover match.
She's phenomenal.
You know, right before WrestleMania. I was like, man, like is this the same Mandy Rose that I was watching that couldn't flip a table at SummerSlam? You know,
Right.
like wow, she's totally got real confidence. So setting Alexa Bliss down there to kind of figure it out. I mean, look, they're trying that with Apollo Crews. They've done that with a few people to try to, you know, refocus them a little bit. I don't think that's a bad idea.
I don't think it's a demotion anymore.
The women's roster is so thin. They need everybody, all hands on deck.
They do, but at the same time, though, if they're not gonna, if it's not gonna be 100% where everybody can kind of reach their full potential. See, I don't look at in the past, because the way Vince was running it in recent years, it was like a demotion. For sure, it was a demotion, you know. But now I truly see what NXT's purpose is again.
Well, even NXT refocused Finn Balor.
Exactly. So it's doing its job now. It's getting people ready for the main roster and letting them figure out who they are as characters. Because here's the difference between what's going to happen with Mandy Rose if we were still under Vince versus what's happening with Triple H. Mandy Rose is crushing it down there. She's doing a fantastic job. Eventually, when she, you know, slowly weans herself back into the main roster, it's not going to be this two different Mandy Roses from NXT into the main roster. We are going to get that Mandy Rose from NXT, that character, and you're going to get the basis and that history behind who she is. So it's not going to be completely different people like it's always been in the past for the past couple of years. So if Alexa Bliss goes back down there just to kind of find her way again and get her character back and whoever she really wants to be at this point, it'd still be fine when she comes back to the main roster for who she is.
Right.
In the past, it's like, well, yeah, I'm going to go back down there. I'm going to do great. But then when I come back up, then it's going to suck again. But they'll know how to work Mandy Rose when she gets back. Same thing if they do it with Alexa Bliss. It wouldn't hurt her.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. We got a lot out of that segment here. Not bad at all. All right. So it was a little bit of a clunky start to Raw. The finish, you know, wasn't bad, but of course it was, you know, attempted interference finish, but you know, Belair still gets the victory here. KOD. Let's see. I love Rey Mysterio right now. I mean, I always do love Rey Mysterio, but he's doing some great character work where Dominik is coming up a little short. He's still, look, the kid's still finding his way in this, and they're going to go all out with this and really drag it out before Rey gets his hands on Dominik, before Rey decides he's had enough and gets his hands on Dominik. You know, Rey is really carrying this with some strong promos, you know, talking about, you know, emotion and like, I don't recognize my son and all this stuff. You know, he's awesome. And, you know, he's always been a great babyface, the babyface in peril, but you know, now he's the father in peril in this case. And, you know, it's like, it feels like real sadness. It feels like it's, you know, he makes it feel like, it's
like
real
genuine.
Yeah,
for sure.
Miz and Dexter Loomis. We had this, I think they're trying to do something funny tonight with Miz Force. And they all get destroyed. Of course, like everybody knew it was going to happen, but this has been going on for about 2 months now. And what is the deal with Dexter Loomis? And we're still waiting for this. You know, it's like, I was okay, you know, a couple weeks ago when we were talking about, you know, the cage match.
Uncle Billy.
But Uncle Billy's here. You know, we're doing a couple of things. You know, we were talking a couple of weeks ago when Loomis interfered in the cage match for the Miz, and you know, I was okay with it. You know, still not having answers, but now we're at the end of the month.
too long.
It's getting a little long here.
Yeah.
And I just don't get it. Like initially security was supposed to keep him out, and then he's allowed in the ring, and it's like I don't understand what the hell this is anymore now. Like I get like I like the variety show aspect that a lot of people are wrestling a couple different styles, which makes me very happy, and we're having longer matches. But if this is the horror show portion of the variety show, it kind of stinks.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right.
I know you're not gonna get it. I love my Miz. I love him, but and it's really not him. It's actually more of the fact that like there are certain things that I say in this company, let it drag out a little bit. Not drag out, but let it play out. And then there's certain things. All right.
Hey, you know what, Ed? You know what, Ed? I'll give you that, bro. All day long. Yeah, I will give you that. It's still better than the 24/7 title.
That is very true.
I will give you that because this will pay off into something that might be decent.
I hope
even
so.
Though Dexter Loomis, Sam Shaw is a horrible professional wrestler, but it's still better than the 24/7 crowd.
I guess so. Yeah.
Sure.
No, I can't. But I'm not gonna. I love my Miz, but this needs to have a payoff.
Yeah, and like choking him out tonight. I was like, what is the deal with this? Like, can
you explain what's going on?
I never explained what happened when he was in the car. It's like he just keeps when he was kidnapped, when he was in his house. It's like it's they had a realistic component to it before. Like, I kind of like.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Like when he broke into NXT to see Indy Hartwell because they're married and they kiss and then he gets arrested and it's like I kind of liked that. But now it's just gotten to the realms of like, they were doing so well for like that month of August. And then like it gets to September. It's like, it just all of a sudden got really stupid.
Well, okay. And you know what? You know why too? Miz has always been a guy of like speaking and talking and revealing and telling things. And again, okay, maybe you could play the side of like, this is traumatic for him. He doesn't want to talk about it. But Miz has always been the type to just like, hey, this happened to me, like, whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like, there's really no one's talking. No one's saying what's going on here. So now you're just kind of left with like.
It just keeps happening. It's like they keep finding more and more far-fetched ways for him to get his hands on the Miz. And it's like, well, yeah, it'll get a pop when they eventually do reveal. But it's like, man, it's just like, can we just get to the reveal now? It's like, it's getting a little long in the tooth here.
What is the reveal going to be? Like now I'm just really curious of like.
Well, eventually, Andrew's saying that it might eventually be Index versus Maurice and Miz. I'm also thinking that, Edge and Beth Phoenix are going to be teaming up again to face like, Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley or Dominik Mysterio and Rhea Ripley at some point as well. So there might be one or two intergender matches coming out here.
Andrew,
you might have to start becoming a fan of Grayson Waller. You might.
Andrew, what are you doing here? Come on now. Let's not get crazy.
Cody Rhodes will be back for the reveal of the Dexter Loomis thing. Maybe.
I could see it happening.
Perhaps. We had a really good promo from Seth Rollins or Seth freaking Rollins.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
oh my God. It's like of all the things that have been added back, like people getting their first names back, can we drop the freaking from Seth Rollins? Like they have to say Seth freaking Rollins every single time they mention him. It's like, my God, it's so it's so annoying.
Andrew, stop it.
What's he doing? Is he picking on you?
He's trying to,
like this is a good point too. Like Omos has had back-to-back squash matches where I've only seen Veer Mahan have. I think he's only had one squash match so far since Triple H has taken over. It's like, look, I don't think Veer Mahan is the answer to any questions here. Any holes that they have on the roster, but he had all that build. I'd like to see him do something. I think he's got a little more autonomy. Like I think he can move around a little better than Omos can.
What's happening?
I don't know. I like the Seth Rollins promo. Yeah, I mean it was basic, basic Seth Rollins. Oh, like this is a solid promo. He
I like a good
talked about
Seth
the fight pit
Rollins
thing. He said, "Yeah, I've been in every single match type, and when the dust settles, it'll still be me, and I'm going to be the king of the fight pit." Good stuff. And then he turned his attention to Rey Mysterio and said he's going to give the Father of the Year the beating he's too afraid to give to his son. And I thought that was, you know what, like it kind of made me excited to see Seth freaking Rollins versus Rey Mysterio, even though I have severe PTSD from how horrible
I think we all do.
that stuff was in 2020. It's like, it's bad enough to be on lockdown and trapped in the house and you can't go anywhere. And it's like, oh, wrestling's my one outlet. And then it's like Ray and Seth trying to poke each other's eyes out. And I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible.
Yeah, that went crazy.
It was so stupid.
But
it was so bad.
But we got Seth Rollins back.
Seth Rollins is back.
And we got, Rey Mysterio back. And you know what? Great match. So
it was a great match. I look, I think I remember from like, the podcast like 2 years ago with Doug Lackey talking about, Extreme Rules, the horror show, and how horrible the fucking storyline was. But when they actually had a chance to start wrestling, it was good.
It was good.
And it was just a shame that they had to do this thing where they were trying to poke each other's eyes out at the end.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And tonight was a good match. They had Dominik come out the steel chair again, and Seth was kind of high-fiving Dominik Mysterio. They teased that Dominik was still mad at him, but from years back, but he's not anymore. They also flashed that QR code for the white bunny thing, on the screen for just like 2 seconds, but it was enough. You can see what happened. They had a really, really great match. They had a really great match. Of course, there was interference from Rhea Ripley. Stomp, proving necktie. Referee calls the match for Seth Rollins. Awesome stuff. Another distraction finish, but of all the distraction finishes that they did tonight, this one definitely makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to get Dominik involved in that. You have to get Rhea involved in that. And but like I was actually surprised that they didn't get Matt Riddle involved in that. But Matt was watching backstage. Actually, there was a moment in the Ray match, in the Ray Seth match, where Seth was driven into the steel steps, and I think he's going to need a couple stitches, but he had a big cut like right in the center of his forehead, and it looked really, really painful. And when they showed the replay, when his head hit the steel steps and he got busted, you could see like he was in a lot of pain. That is not a fun look. I don't think any hard way injuries are fun or feel good, but like right here in the middle of your forehead, you got that vein that runs here. It's like, I don't know, like that. It's a very sensitive area. There's not a lot of skin, between.
No, it hurts. It hurts.
That had to have really sucked.
Yeah.
And you could even see like as the match is going on, he was like kind of like squinting his eyes from just like the pain. I got to give it to Seth. I mean, really. He's a phenomenal wrestler.
Phenomenal.
And really since he came up with the Shield in 2011, he's been 11 years.
There's a reason why he's called the Architect, because he has a certain style and a way about him when he's in the ring it's
right.
It's great.
But when they had him turn on the Shield in like 2014, I mean, he was great. Like I think even just from 2012 on, he was friggin' awesome as a member of the Shield and like their go-to guy for a great match. But when they had him win Money in the Bank and had him turn on the Shield and stuff like that, that was 2014. We're 8 years in a row of him being the in the top 5 of the top wrestlers in the world.
Right.
In some ways, he might be the best wrestler in the world. Still, for how he's been able to reinvent himself multiple times, come back from that Fiend situation, always having great matches, no matter what, no matter how bad the storyline is, he really gives his all and kind of at the end, when the bell rings, like he can put on a match that'll make it like, at least it wasn't a total waste of time in the payoff. He's just great. He's really great. Like when Cody Rhodes needs to debut, who do you put him against? Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins.
You need to establish Cody Rhodes as a legitimate threat. you put him in a trio of matches against Seth Rollins, and Seth is strong enough where he could lose all 3 of those matches and still be okay. Put him in a match against Matt Riddle, and they, promo work was so phenomenal that I couldn't wait for their match at Clash at the Castle, especially in that thing where he was talking about his family at the end. I was like, he is phenomenal. He's really
good.
Damn good.
Dead freaking Rollins.
Dead freaking Rollins. Good stuff. So Matt Riddle was watching backstage. I'm surprised he didn't get interfere in that match. This tag team match with Alpha Academy versus Johnny Gargano and Kevin Owens. This was another great match. Really, it's just so much fun.
You said it before. This is just an action-packed evening of just like great matches.
Great matches. Some crummy finishes, or just some like, oh god, another one. Like really, like 1 2 at most, but like, like we're talking like 3 4 5 matches where it's like interference. Like that's
yeah. No, we definitely.
This tag match was just,
it's great.
So much fun. You have Kevin Owens, as the hometown boy. He's not really from Edmonton, but like he's from Canada. So like that's like, I mean, Canada's so big. It's the width of the United States.
Huge.
It's the width of the United States, and then some. Really, it's an enormous country. But he crosses the border and it's his hometown. It's like, oh, what a big town this is. They were crazy for him, and they love Johnny Gargano too. And Chad Gable is an excellent professional wrestler.
What does our daughter do? Shoosh.
Oh my god, Liliana walks around the house all the time shooshing us. So annoying.
Shoosh, please.
Shoosh, please. Oh my god, you gotta be kidding me.
It's our kid.
Our daughter's gonna go to freaking preschool, in a couple months, and it's gonna be shooshing her teacher.
Yeah.
We're gonna get that phone call. And we're gonna get the phone call like, oh, she told me to shoosh, but she also said please. So I mean, like, there's an issue here, but at least she's being played.
And then we gotta explain to them that it's not really like,
it's from professional wrestling, and then they'll be like, you're letting your kid watch professional wrestling.
Daddy and mommy work for a website, and
it's not good. Anyway, let's see. So I just thought this was a great match. They really, I don't know. Everything about it was just really good. I liked Owens putting Otis through the table, and the segment after. I mean, of course, they had Austin Theory get involved, and that kind of played in the finish. So again, another distraction finish, but it didn't work in the heels' favor. I actually thought Alpha Academy was going to get the win. I was like, well, I guess Alpha Academy is going to win sometimes, but nope. Johnny Gargano hit one final beat on Chad Gable, and that was the end of it. The thing with the phone call was so funny. Really. That was so good, where he calls, he said, Austin Theory's like, I thought you guys were the masters and supposed to beat these guys. Like, what's wrong? And Chad Gable's like, oh, Otis hasn't been the same since that 2-ton doofus beat him on SmackDown. And then the phone rings, and it's Braun Strowman says he's going to beat him in his hometown of St. Paul next week. And it's a good thing he's going to beat him in his hometown so they don't have to fly his body home for the funeral. And he's like, shoosh, please. It's like, it was so funny. Chad Gable is like, I wish that he would have more opportunities than just be like the enhancement guy. It's like Kurt Angle was goofy as hell when, and while at the same time he was, winning matches. Like, WWE champion
for sure.
He was goofy as all hell, but could still like pull off big victories.
Because they had that, obviously Chad Gable is, that character is a form of that, right? Like he's supposed to emulate this like Kurt Angle style and personality. And you're right. Like Kurt Angle still had like a strong ring appearance. And I'm not saying like, Chad Gable looks whatever, but he's still, he should be playing off as that, like, hey, I can win my matches and stuff like that with whatever. So yeah, I get what you're saying. He doesn't need to just be the enhancement person.
Yeah.
He's so much more.
Well,
you could do both.
Yeah. Well, at least he's not Shorty G anymore. So.
Oh well, that
I'll take that.
See, and this is a prime example of how you could go from something like that to where he is now.
And look, he got a WrestleMania moment this year. He got to be on the card, and I was like, of all the guys that and ladies that made it onto WrestleMania this year, like Chad Gable's the guy I was like the happiest for.
Oh yeah,
really, really happy. We had a squash match with Omos going over these two guys, Joey Gibson and Greg Lester. A squash match. It's kind of like you can relax, and if you want to take a break during this, you can go do that, and then come back for the next for the next part of the show. It was kind of like a little intermission. I was fine with it. I don't know what the deal with Omos is, but it's almost like, are they going to put him back with Bobby Lashley or something like that? Because I do think that Bobby Lashley, it's time for him to get involved in an angle rather than just like a random title match. He hasn't really had any angle since Austin Theory.
No, and
they did the great build for the Tommaso Ciampa thing. I like the steel cage match against the Miz, and even the match against Seth Rollins last week. But it's like, I want to see Bobby Lashley now do something, and I get that not everybody can have a storyline all the time, and it's kind of okay that he's just kind of like in the background being like this like enforcer type with the title, and if you want the title, you got to work your way up to it. But I'd like to see somebody work up to it now.
So a lot of people were mentioning before in the chat how, and I agree with them, and with what you're saying too. Like, we definitely need Lashley more present in a storyline purpose with his title and everything, because it is a shame, because he's listen, we have so many great people. It's like, it's almost like overwhelming how much we could do with all of them, right? Especially Bobby Lashley. So I agree, though. I think the title needs to be more present. I think he needs to be more present, and it needs to definitely be a focus. And Brett, you were right. You've been saying it for months, and it is true. He's U.S. champion, and it needs to be showcased.
Well, I don't think it needs to be like showcase, but like, I mean, like, if we don't,
but it needs to be there.
If you don't have a world title on the show, you definitely need to have a title that people want to go for
sure.
And but you got to like tie up these other storylines first, like make room and don't just make it like the token, like, oh well, it's the title, so we got to give it a few.
No, but
so like tie up the Matt Riddle, Seth Rollins thing, have it end in the fight pit, and then I want to see Bobby Lashley have something going into Survivor Series.
Yeah, and I just think, like, even the point that Jamel's making, and I agree too,
Crown Jewel,
that Lashley's just too good to not have anything going on. So that the consistency with him needs to be a little bit more, and I totally agree with that.
Well, he's having great matches, and I kind of thought that they were going to do that thing where he was going to have like an open challenge every week, just to kind of keep the focus on it and build the U.S. title up,
which he should be doing.
But I'd like to see him. I'd like to see a feud now. It's time. It's time. So after Extreme Rules, I think it's Bobby Lashley should move to the front of the line as somebody who's going to get like the focus. So we'll see what happens. This was a big surprise here. I hadn't thought about her. I hadn't heard any rumblings that a return was imminent, but Mrs. Gargano, Candice LeRae, made her surprise return on this show.
So okay,
Nikki Ash.
Am I imagining that we saw her at the NXT show?
Yes.
Wait, we saw her.
We saw her at NXT Takeover the week of WrestleMania 35.
Okay, and she was great.
Yes, yeah, I remember you were pregnant with Liliana, and you were saying how good you thought she was. She wasn't even on the main card. She was on that part that they recorded for the NXT show. But you liked her.
And it's funny how, like, now I'm pregnant again. Like, oh, here she's back, and I'm like, whoa, cool. She's great. Yes. She's really good.
And she's the Poison Pixie.
Wow. She's great. I really like her.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't do much of anything tonight. Like this was almost like a rushed return. And it's like, Johnny Gargano got like this big giant match, and she just kind of returns in like a match, and here she is. I'm back, and that's the end of it.
I like that though.
You can kind of complain about some disparity with women, but this is a hell of an addition. Even though I spent like 15 minutes talking about my gripes with like Io Sky not figuring it out yet, and Dakota Kai just being there, and Bayley just being outright awful at certain times in her return, there's still a huge addition to the women's roster. Like the women's roster since July 2022 has gone through some major upgrades, and Candice LeRae being part of it is a major upgrade.
It's great.
and finally they had Nikki Ash take the mask off. So hopefully the almost a superhero thing is going to be going away soon. Where she just kind
One
of
could hope.
changes that character. It's just so stupid.
Come on.
Like, you know what? And I'm kind of glad that if it does go away, I'm glad that it wasn't like, okay, well, Vince is gone. You're not the superhero anymore. It's like, okay, well, some people did get invested in the superhero thing. I mean, I'm concerned as to what kind of people these are. But
Children.
people, yes, but some people did like the superhero thing. So you have to kind of work your way out of it rather, with a storyline, get some mileage out of it before you kill it. So that's what they did. I think that's what they're going to be, they're going to wind up doing here. They were doing some things where Finn Balor was trying to get AJ Styles to join the Judgment Day, and they keep teasing this. So I'm wondering, if it's, I think it is just going to wind up being just a feud with AJ Styles and Finn Balor. But I do wonder, like, what are they going to do with AJ Styles, who, he hasn't really done much of anything since if you really think about like the trajectory of AJ Styles since he had the match against The Undertaker, the Buried Alive match, other than being like in a tag team with Omos for like forever, what's AJ Styles done since
No,
then?
I know exactly what you mean. And the shameful part of that is again another guy who has a lot of talent and has great in-ring ability, and he's got so many layers too. He could be the funny guy, he could be a serious guy, he could be like, he's great all around. So there's so many things you can do with him, but it's like, what at this point? So that's what I was saying before. There's just so much talent that we have here that it's hard to think of like something for everybody. Like, I know I would be very overwhelmed if I was in creative. I mean, there's certain things I know I would definitely want to do and change and whatever, but I would be so overwhelmed with certain individuals because he is the phenomenal one. He's great. And it's hard because it's like, but how do you insert him where it's not overriding somebody else's storyline and you want to build up other people? Like,
hey, look, he might be suffering right now from like a Bobby Lashley thing where it's like, let's tie up these other storylines and then we'll focus on him. Then we'll take some people off the bench and make them the focus and pull some people back.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like that. That's kind of like, a seasonal aspect of, how I think wrestling should be. I don't think everybody should be featured all day, every day for the whole entire year.
No, same.
Unless you're like a gigantic main eventer. And I think they should, mix and match some parts and pull some people back and things like that.
Andrew, what are you doing to me tonight? Oh my God.
But like, maybe AJ Styles' turn, happens at like, going into Crown Jewel and like the rest of the year and stuff like that.
Yeah. There definitely needs to be, I like what you said. There definitely needs to be some sort of like rotation system.
I think they're doing that.
And it needs to be happen organically. Like, I don't want you just rotating people for the sake of rotating people, but because there's just so much talent. It's really, really hard to get everybody in there.
Yeah, it is. So we had this match with AJ Styles versus Sami Zayn with Solo Sikoa. It's like, as soon as you saw Solo Sikoa in the graphic, every single Bloodline match ends the exact same: interference. Of course, that's exactly how it ended. But they had this match went through 2 commercial breaks, and it was really good. Sami Zayn and AJ Styles obviously are 2 phenomenal professional wrestlers.
They're great.
And like I know that AJ Styles has been injured, and that I mean he was injured in 2020. He was injured going into the Undertaker match, and I think they gave him some. He wanted to, he was working through it, and just to keep some interest on Raw, because Raw with the lockdown, no crowds, was so awful. And maybe he figured he could build up Omos, but like Omos is still 2 years later, still trying to be built. But he certainly seems to be back. It's like, so really he's been kind of like, this year at least, he's been a victim of like start-stop pushes.
Yes.
If you think about what happened to him in 2020, when Edge came back, for the first time in that Royal Rumble, one of the first people he speared down was AJ Styles, and AJ wanted to give him the big bump for the spear. He wound up separating his shoulder. And it's almost a good thing that WrestleMania didn't take place in front of a crowd, because he would have struggled in that match against Undertaker.
Oh yeah.
And the Boneyard match wound up being like the perfect way to send Taker into
Oh,
the
for
sunset.
sure. Yeah.
So he's certainly dealt with a lot of injuries, but I think he appears to be healthy, totally fine. I'd like to see him, get in that rotation.
Mm-hmm.
So this ended with some interference, but it was a great match. I mean, like, look,
another great match.
It's really hard to gripe about the interference finish. And it's like the same thing with like Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. It's like, it's like the same effing finish we've seen for 2 years, but the match was good. The match was really good, and at this point with the bloodline, like, they're not going to be losing anytime soon. And they've been, he's been champion for so long that it's almost like they're not going to pay it off anywhere but WrestleMania. You have to expect these finishes. So the match better be good.
Yes.
It's like, like so many people are bitching and moaning about, Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul. What did Logan Paul ever do to deserve this? It doesn't make any sense. This is so annoying. It's like, that's the biggest spectacle that they could waste at Crown Jewel. It's definitely a match. It's a match that has some buzz. No way is Logan Paul winning the titles. You can quote me on that. Unless they like scale it down to like one title, but like there's no way. There's no way that Logan Paul's, watch me be wrong.
I'll jump out the window if he wins anything.
But there's no way that Logan Paul's going to win. So it's like, rather than like put him in a match against like, Roman versus Drew McIntyre Part 2 could be great at Crown Jewel. It's like, we're going to see the same interference finish anyway. Make it a fun one-off. Finish is never in doubt. It's not like so many people aren't going to see Crown Jewel. Might as well just have a spectacle of a match. And if you miss it, you miss it. But you're not going to miss the finish, at least.
Well, I'll definitely be missing it for many reasons.
I know you've never watched a Saudi Arabia
and Logan, show, especially Logan Paul. No way.
I know. It's like Logan Paul and Saudi Arabia. Victoria's not having it. The Judgment Day stuff was really good. After I thought this was a really good angle with AJ Styles, Finn Balor coming out and saying, if you just accepted my offer for us to be in your corner tonight, this would have gone way different. Time to rise up and join the Judgment Day. And they go to lock horns like it's the Bullet Club. And AJ Styles teases doing it, and then he flips him off. I thought that was good. That was nice and edgy. And I think Finn Balor versus AJ Styles could wind up being some good matches coming up here. So like that'll be a good rotation, and especially as we get towards Survivor Series with those 2 War Game matches. I imagine one side's going to be like, I mean, you could do like a Bloodline. I'm sure Bloodline might be the one in the War Games match against a whole bunch of faces, but you certainly could do the Judgment Day as in a War Games match almost against the people that they've been feuding with, and have like AJ Styles be involved in that. I don't know. There's a lot of ways you can go with that, or you can just do a traditional Survivor Series match, make that the traditional Survivor Series match, then do the War Games with somebody else. A lot of ways you can go. It eventually leads to they attack Balor. They attack AJ Styles, and Balor goes to Pillmanize his neck, and then he stops and says, I could have ended you right here, but I'm not going to, because that's not what friends do. I was like, that was a great angle. That was very fast. It was very compelling.
Very compelling.
I like it a lot. So anyway, leads us to our main event: Damian Priest versus Matt Riddle. Another good match. I'd like,
because of my more positive mindset.
Almost every match was great tonight.
Because of my more positive mindset, there definitely needs to be changes with the interferences. And like we said before, 1, 2, possibly none at all. Fine. That's the way we should be going. Intermittently, moderation. I'm all for it. But when you have really good matches, I'm in my positive mindset now of like, I can almost forgive the amount of interferences. So every match tonight was almost every match tonight was action packed, amazing. Up until that interference at the end, like really like brought something to it, made sense, just heavy hitting, hard hitting, and everything else. And this was not, and again, the main event, this was not a disappointment whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was great, and obviously the post-match stuff was really good too. It's like, they've been doing a lot of like injury angles with Edge. Like they busted his ankle, but he was back like the next week facing Dominik, and then they busted his ankle again. He was gone for a week. Now he's back again, like doing it's like, what's the deal with that? Like,
that I don't know.
I know that Edge is taking like a definitely on a reduced schedule, but like to keep him out for like a week, did they really need to do the big injury angle? But whatever.
He's like, it's my shtick.
But you know what? It's like so funny. Like, he was only gone for like a week, and they come back like, oh, I haven't seen Edge in forever. It's like, it was the exact same return, at SummerSlam. Other than like him coming out of the flames, but like right down to like spearing down Finn Balor and Damian Priest in the SummerSlam match. It was like the same thing. It's amazing.
I just out for 2 days.
Yeah, he's out for 2 days. Oh my god!
I haven't seen you
God,
so long.
So he challenges Finn Balor to a match at Extreme Rules in an I Quit match. I gotta tell you, when I heard that, I was like, we gotta go to Extreme Rules in Philadelphia, and then we gotta go to Raw the next.
When
night.
is it again?
It's October 8th, but we got too much going on. Like, we couldn't possibly do that.
No, I don't think we could.
No, it's getting tougher to get out and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, for me, especially.
Yeah. But then if we did that, we would have Extreme Rules, then Billy Joel, and then Monday Night Raw in Brooklyn. That's like too much.
That's a lot for me.
Yeah. So as much as I Quit matches are really fascinating, though. It's like it's almost like,
what was my first one I saw?
You're an I Quit match?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the first one I saw.
I can't remember the last one I saw, to be honest with you. But like like there, like you talk about a match that can't have a clean finish. It's like, this is the one. Like there was the only great I Quit match that I ever saw was obviously Terry Funk versus Ric Flair, which was that's the gold standard of I Quit matches. Rock versus Mick Foley is just remembered for how barbaric it was.
Yeah, that was
it's like
crazy.
Amazing. Like, like Kurt Angle's talking about how he has memory issues from all the concussions that he's had. It's like, Mick's got his podcast, and God bless him. I hope he stays healthy forever. But like, my God, like 11 unprotected chair shots with his arms handcuffed behind him. That was ridiculous. That was just uncalled for, really. Like, thank God he's not, just thank God he's not suffering any long-term effects.
I know which one it was now.
Yeah, Ronda versus Charlotte Flair at the WrestleMania Backlash.
No, but my first one I ever saw televised, well, no, I mean, okay,
Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. It was like,
John Cena versus The Miz.
Yeah. Yep.
In 2011. That was the first one when I started like watching really again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's such a strange concept, and almost one that like says like you really can't have a clean finish on it, because it really, to have somebody actually verbally say I quit, it's like, I think like the way that they normally should go down is like how they did it with Mick and Ric Flair at SummerSlam 2006, where Ric Flair was threatening Melina and Mick Foley quit to save her. I think that's how this one's going to go again. I think Extreme Rules is going to come around, and I think I think they'll probably do something where Beth Phoenix, because they've done this already with Beth Phoenix at Toronto, for the Damian Priest match.
Yeah,
I honestly think that they'll bring Beth Phoenix. They'll show her in a backstage segment, like wishing him luck or whatever, and then he'll be facing Finn Balor, have Finn Balor dead to rights or whatever, and then Rhea Ripley will have like Beth Phoenix in a headlock or something like that, and he'll I quit, don't hurt my wife, leading to an eventual intergender match like that. Like there's no way that there could be a clean finish in this. There's no way.
Yeah,
there's no way.
That's a good point, though. That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Good thinking.
I know. I'm really smart. I'm really smart.
You're smart.
So that was Raw. That was Raw. So big return from Edge. So if you stuck it out for the 3 hours, you were rewarded. But usually by the time that third hour hits, the numbers start to plummet. So if you stuck it out for that long, you
win a prize.
You saw a fun thing with Edge making his return. It's like
making his return, his fifth return
for the 900th time. But anyway, it's a good show. You know, like I have some gripes about the finishes for this one, but like last week I thought was a bad show. I did not think last week was a good show. It was like the first really bad show under Triple H.
Under Triple H, yeah.
Like again, like good matches, but I was like, oh my god, I was like beating me over the head with every match had a cheap finish. So like that really hurt it for me. This one not so bad.
This one was different. This one was very different.
Yeah. Because like the interference didn't directly lead to every single finish, you know? So like I can live with that. But anyway, fun show. I give it a thumbs up. What do you give it?
I do give it a thumbs up as well.
Let's ask everybody in the chat room. What do you give this show? Do you give it a thumbs up, thumbs down? What do you think of Edge's return? Thumbs up. My God.
We think his return on Friday.
Yeah, I know. It's like, just, wow. Anyway, so we'll wait for them to give their stuff. I'm very curious to see what Twitter thinks about it. I didn't actually see the tweets yet. Although I did see that tweet of the guy like, shut up with your hot takes, you son of a bitch.
Oh my God, people are so aggressive. So Machine Walls gives it a thumbs up. Ed gives it a thumbs up. Randy gives it a thumbs up. Daniel Shell thumbs Edge when returns on Dynamite up. Andrew gives it a thumbs up. Jamel gives it a thumbs up. And the Post-Raw show a thumbs up. Thank you, Jamel.
Yes, indeed. Of course. We got 89% thumbs up.
Okay, you know, that's about what I would expect, because
You know,
I do expect the other portion of people probably with the finishes.
Honestly, since, you know, even though I said last week was a bad show, it still got like, I think it had still had like 60% thumbs up. There hasn't been one Raw where there hasn't been one Raw since July that has been thumbs down. Or like thumbs down was the majority. So like that,
Brett gives
think that's
it
really fascinating.
thumbs up to the matches, but a thumbs down to the finishes.
Yeah, love the matches. Stories seem to be waiting a bit. I actually think the stories are pretty good, but like the finishes are like, oh my God, I can't take it anymore. But there's a lot more they could be doing. But again, I think a rotational aspect of this show is it's kind of the angle that they're going for here. I think it's great. You know, I think we're definitely on the right track. There's some things that need to be tightened up, but it's on the uptick. It's on the
uptake.
So I'm going to be back on Friday to recap SmackDown once again.
Yo, Andrew, you got to relax.
Jeez.
He's just like, come on. I had COVID. Like, I mean, maybe because you're not feeling good as well.
yes. He's got his vertigo going on right now. But if he keeps it up, Victoria's gonna give him vertigo, I think.
Come on, Andrew.
We still have to have that graveyard match with Victoria and Andrew. I think we'll see. But anyway, everybody, I'm recapping quite a bit this week. I'm pretty happy about that. But we'll be back next week with Post-Raw, the final show before Extreme Rules. I'm excited about that. And until then, I'm Mike.
I'm Victoria.
Have a great night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.